How is it going, everyone? I hope you guys are having a fantastic Saturday so far, but now that it is Saturday, we can finally talk about the newest episode of My Hero Academia. And I have been waiting for this episode all week. We are now back in official canon that goes along with the manga, and I'm not saying it like it's a bad thing. I really enjoyed the non-canon filler type episode we got with Sue and her nautical adventures. That was a really fun and enjoyable episode, but this one got very serious during the second half of this episode, and we got a lot of crucial information that anime-only watchers, kind of like myself, kind of have been waiting for to get, explained and dived into. Not only do we get the backstory on All for One, and the creation of the quirk for One for All, but we also got a little bit of backstory about, the story behind what's All Might's purpose of being the symbol of peace and actually inheriting One for All. But this also goes heavily towards Deku's journey moving forward in the story of My Hero Academia and his role of inheriting One for All from All Might. So if you guys have not watched this episode yet, definitely go watch it. This is very crucial information, and definitely stay for the end credit scene at the end of this episode because I missed it on my first time watching this episode. I thought that was done, and then my second time going through it, I was like, oh shit, end credit scene, gotta go watch it. So definitely stay for the end credit scene. I'll talk about that near the end of this video, and I'll talk a little bit later about the whole origin of One for All, but I want to talk about everything else that went down in this episode because I feel that everyone is going to concentrate on the One for All info dump we kind of got within this episode, but I really enjoyed the first half of this episode as well because not only do we get the ending of the internships and also a really nice moment between Gran Torino and Deku when, Gran Torino kind of does that senile moments like, who are you? But the only reason he was asking him, who are you? It's because he wanted him to say his hero name, basically, I am Deku, which I really did like that moment at the beginning of this episode. But then once we transferred over to everyone returning to the school, this was when the fun and enjoyable moments kind of popped up in this episode. And this is where the episode kind of has a complete tone shift from the first half of this episode to the second half, because the first half is very, happy-go-lucky, everyone's excited, and there's a lot of funny moments too with Mineta and Izuku throughout this episode that I really enjoy. But then once you get into the second half with One for All and All for One, that whole info dump, it gets very, very serious. But I just got to talk about, all the students coming together because that was so enjoyable. I had to take notes on this episode because there is a lot that goes down in this episode. And first, right off the bat, the fact that Kirishima and Sarah were just laughing hysterically when Bakugo walked in with the best genius hairstyle, and he's like, I can't get rid of it. Ever since it's been done, I can't wash it out, and they're just laughing hysterically. I absolutely love that moment, and then when Bakugo got so pissed, his hair just bombed back into its original shape, and they're still cracking up laughing. Very funny moments right there. Sue is talking with Jiro and Ashido about her internship, and she, info drops, last episode how she ended up stopping some smugglers. So I do like that actually popped up in the conversation of all the students talking about their internships. But then they go to talk to Ochiko, and this is the awakened Ochiko. This is Demon Ochiko, where she's just got this possessed look, and she's just going through the punching motions about, what she learned with Gunhead, and they're just looking at her like, damn, she is awakened right now. I absolutely loved that moment. But even moving away from that, this was a very odd moment as well because we get to see Mineta looking scared about talking about his internship with Mount Lady, and it makes me ask the question, what the hell happened during his internship to where he just comes up with this line where it's like, all women are demons? And it's like, okay, Mineta, obviously something bad traumatized you with the Mount Lady internship, and I really want to know what the hell happened there. We probably will never find out, but I really enjoyed that as well. But then everyone's attention basically shifts over to Todoroki, Ida, and Deku, and they end up talking about the hero killer. And I really like this section as well because even though Stain is captured and put behind bars, his presence is still very well within the show right now because his ideologies are going to live on, not only with everyone that kind of watched that video that kind of went around, but also these villains that are going to be popping up. And what's interesting to note as well is that Kaminari kind of views Stain as a cool guy. So that seemed very odd to me. I'm not sure if he is idolizing him in any way, but I just thought that one section in this episode with Kaminari talking about the hero killer Stain video that's going around online within My Hero Academia and basically saying that he's a cool guy. His concept seemed very, very cool, and everyone's looking at him as like, Kaminari, what the hell are you talking about? So that was a very weird moment as well. But then I just like the moment too with Ida, realizing that it's like, all right, guys, we have to basically put pedal to the metal. We got to become heroes. And he just goes back to his normal self, hand gestures, roboting all around. I really like that moment. And then we move on to the field training exercise. And this is when shit gets good. And the reason I love this section so much is because it allows Izuku basically to show everyone in his class, including All Might, the control he now has over his quirk. All Might had no idea what type of breakthroughs Deku had with his 1 week internship, but with this exercise, All Might finally gets to see him jumping and zipping around during this rescue race exercise. And you can tell All Might is definitely proud of the fact that Izuku now has more control over his quirk, and that is emphasized even more when he gives that thumbs up. And it made me realize how much I missed All Might with these past couple episodes. We've been lacking All Might a lot, and just to see him in this episode very prominently displayed, especially with the second half, I really enjoyed that. But moving over to the students, they were shocked by this. Like even Bakugo, like all the other students saw Deku and they're like, wow, that's amazing. He's moving around so quickly. He's not breaking his limbs. But Bakugo was like, hang on, he's moving around a lot like me. While I was at my useless internship, basically learning nothing, here's Deku, so much stronger, so much control over his quirk, and he is about to surpass me. That is possibly what's going through Bakugo's mind right now, and he is absolutely livid. I love that section, and I honestly thought we were going to get Bakugo kind of like confronting Deku in that locker room when everyone, you know, is changing out of their hero costumes and getting back into their school garb, but that actually didn't happen. But this is where another funny moment within the episode actually came up as well with Mineta, you know, him and his perverted nature, basically finding the Shawshank type hole in the wall and like, hey, let's spy on the girls in the girl locker room. And as soon as he put his eye through there and he's announcing all the girls' names besides Jiro's, but Jiro's earphone jack ends up going through the peephole, poking his eye, and he ends up screaming, and all the other girls on the other side is like, what a disgusting individual. Let's plug up this hole so that way we don't have to deal with this again. But then Jiro's like, he never mentioned me. And honestly, you probably stabbed him right before he was going to mention your name, but that was just a very funny moment within this episode. But then once we actually move away from this is where the second half of the episode definitely takes a more serious turn, and this is where we get all the information with One for All and All for One, and I absolutely loved this moment within the episode. The music in this section was so damn good. Like, I was listening to this part of the episode and I was like, damn, this music is so good. It's emphasizing the serious atmosphere, but like music almost kind of like overtook that section for me because I was just like so engrossed, and it definitely matched up with the serious tone with this conversation between Deku and All Might. But there was even a funny moment even before it got serious where All Might was asking Deku, it's like, do you remember what I told you about how you inherited One for All? And then we see Deku with All Might's face repeating the line, eat it. I lost it at that section. I had to pause it just for a quick minute just to regain composure for that section. But then it moved into the more serious aspect of this. And this is where we got the crucial information about All for One and One for All, and also the beginning parts of history within My Hero Academia about how quirks began to manifest. And I even wrote down what we kind of got within this episode because we learned about how All for One was able to steal quirks from other people, and he would basically give them to himself or he could give them to others. But if he gave them to others, they would basically become brain dead type dolls, very similar to Nomu. But obviously, as we can see, All for One was able to perfect this science to where they're able to move around. They can't speak and they can't think for themselves, but he can still put multiple quirks into one person, and that's how we have the Nomus today. But back then, they were basically failed experiments. And then we come to learn that there's this constant battle that's been going out through history between All for One and his younger brother, who was very similar to Shigaraki in that flashback. Like, that's what I kind of got looking at his character design. He looked very similar to Shigaraki, but obviously that's not Shigaraki. But this sickly younger brother ended up getting, you know, a powerful stockpile power quirk to where he basically, you know, could get more strength and not be as sickly. And it was believed that this younger brother was quirkless. But then this useless quirk that no one knew the little brother had ended up manifesting to where he could transfer power to other people, and it combined with the stockpile power of this random quirk he ended up getting, and then they combined to form One for All. And then a battle took place to where the younger brother tried to take down All for One, ended up being unable to do it, and then we get this cycle of just One for All being passed down between generation and generation of One for All users until it arrived at All Might, to where he finally took up that mantle, and he thought he actually defeated All for One. And I love the one panel, not panel, but the one thing, because I'm thinking of manga right now, the one screenshot of this episode where it's just black and white, and you see All Might basically standing with blood on the ground, and you can basically infer that that is All for One laying at his feet. It reminded me very heavily of like a Batman, Bruce Wayne standing right by his parents' deaths, like that type of panel within the comics or like a movie or an animated film. That really reminded me of like Western comic style feel, and I really enjoyed that panel. It will most likely be the thumbnail for this video. I absolutely love that. Love that little screenshot within this episode, and this is where All Might is basically telling Deku, it's like, I thought I was able to defeat him, but he is most likely still around and pulling the strings right now of the villains that we are fighting currently, and you are now basically tasked with defeating All for One, because right now he is the new inheritor of All, not All for One, One for All. So for him right now, he's asked to take up the mantle of what All Might was unable to do, and actually has to carry out the mission of becoming stronger, getting more accustomed with One for All, and then confronting All for One and most likely defeating him later on in the story of My Hero Academia. So I really do like this section, but then it gets even more ominous to when All Might can't bring himself to actually tell Deku that he's not going to be around when most likely he ends up, getting full control of One for All. And that is actually very scary to think about, that we might not have All Might within the future of My Hero Academia, and that I feel kind of bad because I really like his character, and I'm really hoping he doesn't die, but if he does die, it's really going to be good character growth and also make Deku more independent about harnessing his power of One for All. But I don't want him to die, but that is like a huge section of this episode that I really, really enjoyed, and it makes me trying to think right now what's going to be happening right now in the future of My Hero Academia, at least for the anime. I know the manga is way ahead right now and probably answers a lot of the questions I am having right now with learning all this information about All for One and One for All, whether All Might is actually going to die or not. Like, I bet you the manga probably has already covered this, but I am really looking forward to seeing where the story is going to go moving forward with all the information that we learned in this episode. And this is definitely going to be one of my longer reviews for My Hero Academia because there's just so much that went down in this episode. And that doesn't even count the end credit scene at the end of this episode, because we come to learn about the summer camp that's going to be taking place after their final exams. Everyone's super excited, and then as soon as Eraserhead or Aizawa basically tells them, it's like, well, if you don't pass your final exams, basically you're gonna have the summer school for hell. And I love the fact that Kaminari and Kirishima look at everyone and they're about to cry. They're like, guys, let's do our best. Love that moment. But then we finally get a look at All for One. We get Scab Face Man, and like, my God, All Might fucked him up. Like, he is totally destroyed, hooked up to all of these like surgical stuff, and I believe he has a doctor with him because this guy is taking care of All for One, and it seemed like he was on the brink of death until he was actually able to come across a regenerative quirk to where he was able to put that inside him. That's what I'm guessing by the end of this episode, but it's definitely hinting that All for One right now is training Shigaraki very similar to All Might training Deku. It's very good parallels right there. I'm really enjoying it, but this overall episode went from funny and just very like bubbly and energetic at the first half of this episode, and then got very serious and kind of darker by the second half of this episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode with all the information we learned. Do you guys like the first half of this episode, getting to see all of our students finally come together, being so happy about their internships, and then with the second half of this episode getting very serious and finally talking about the history of One for All? So definitely leave your thoughts down in the comments below, guys. I'm really looking forward to the next episode to see what this final exam is going to be for all of our students in Class 1A. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this review. Until episode 21 comes out next Saturday, which I'm going to be so looking forward to. I'll talk with you guys then. And remember, everyone, Plus Ultra. See you later, guys.